I am going to say something that nobody in your life has had the courage to say to you. You have been lied to, not by a person, not by one conversation, but by decades of silence. By the way, nobody at the dinner table ever talked about this. By the way, your father never talked about this. By every movie and every magazine that stopped showing men like you as men who still feel things, still want things. I am 74 years old. I lost my wife 9 years ago. And for a long time, I believed every single one of these lies. I built walls around parts of myself because I thought those parts were supposed to be dead by now. They were not dead. They were just waiting for someone to tell the truth. So today, that is what I am going to do. And there are 6 things that men over 70 believe about desire, about wanting, about intimacy, about still being a man who feels. And every single one of them is completely false. Myth number 1. Desire is supposed to disappear after 70. If it hasn't, something is wrong with me. I cannot tell you how many men have said some version of this to me. A friend of mine, Gerald, he is 76. He pulled me aside after church one Sunday and he actually whispered, that he still found women attractive. He looked at me like he was confessing a crime. Gerald, you're not broken, you're alive. Here is what the research actually says. Desire does not have an expiration date stamped on it at birth. That what changes after 65 or 70 is the urgency, the sharp edge. But the warmth, the wanting to be close to someone, the noticing when a woman laughs in a way that fills a room, that does not go away. In study after study, men and women well into their 80s report emotional and physical desire. The body slows down, the feeling does not. The lie that desire must die is not biology, it is shame wearing a lab coat. It was invented to make you feel like an inconvenience. Like a man your age wanting anything is somehow embarrassing. It is not embarrassing, it is human. And you have earned the right to stop apologizing for being human. There is a man I know, Raymond. He is 79. He told me once, very quietly, that he felt guilty every time he noticed an attractive woman. Like he was doing something wrong just by having eyes. Just by being alive inside a body that still responds to beauty. Raymond, you're not doing anything wrong. Noticing beauty is not a sin. It is not a symptom. It is the last proof that you are still connected to this world. Myth number 2. My body is too old for any of this. No woman wants to be with a man who looks like me now. I want to tell you about the morning I stood in front of the bathroom mirror about 2 years after my wife passed. I was 67. I looked at the gut, the loose skin on my arms, the white hair, the scar on my abdomen from the surgery in 2018. And I thought, who would ever want this? I stayed in that shame for 3 years. 3 years of keeping the lights off. 3 years of assuming the answer before asking the question. Here is what I did not understand then. Women over 65 are not looking at you through the eyes of a 30-year-old. They have their own bodies that have lived and changed and carried weight and survived. They are not comparing you to the men in advertisements. They are looking for someone present, someone warm, someone who is not performing, someone who has enough peace in himself to sit quietly and still make her feel safe. The body you are ashamed of is the body that worked for 40 years, raised children, buried people you love and is still standing this morning to hear these words. That body is not a problem. That body is a history. And the right person will read it with respect. I want you to think about the men you have admired most in your life. Were they admired because of how they looked at 35? Or because of what they carried, what they survived, and how they treated the people around them? You already know the answer. Stop holding yourself to a standard you never actually believed in. Myth number 3. Talking about any of this, desire, intimacy, needing closeness, makes me look weak or desperate. We were raised to be quiet about these things. Our generation was taught that a real man does not talk about what he needs. He handles it. He buries it. He takes it to the garage and sends it into a piece of wood until the feeling passes. I know that garage well. I have spent a lot of evenings there. But here is what silence actually costs you. It costs you connection. It costs you the chance for someone to actually know you before you run out of time to be known. It costs you the kind of intimacy that has nothing to do with a bedroom and everything to do with being seen. Vulnerability is not weakness. At 74, I have watched strong men who never cried, never asked, never admitted they needed anything, die without anyone really knowing them. Their families wept at the funeral for a man who was mostly a mystery. That is the real loss, not the loss of relationship. I think the loss of being truly known by another person before you go. Talking about what you need is not desperation. It is the bravest thing a man our age can do. The men I have seen age with the most grace are not the ones who needed nothing. They are the ones who learn, late maybe, but they learn how to say, I am glad you're here. I missed you. I needed that today. 6 words, 7 words. That is all it takes to let someone in. You have faced harder things than 6 words. Myth number 4. Physical closeness, touching, being touched. That's for younger people. I've moved past needing that. You have not moved past needing it. You have just stopped expecting it. Those are not the same thing. There is a term researchers use, skin hunger. It is exactly what it sounds like. The body's need for physical contact. A hand on the arm, a hug that lasts more than 2 seconds. Someone sitting close enough that you can feel their warmth. When that need goes unmet for months, for years, the body registers it as a threat. Cortisol rises, sleep worsens, the immune system weakens, cognitive decline accelerates. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you because nobody told me. And I spent 4 years after my wife died, slowly starving for something I could not even name. I remember the first time my daughter hugged me, really held on, after a long stretch where I had barely been touched by anyone. And I stood there in her kitchen and I did not want to let go. Not because I was sad, because something in my body was finally quietly being fed. You are allowed to need that. At 70, at 75, at 82. The need does not become undignified with age. Pretending you don't have it, that is what cost you. I started paying attention to the small things after I understood this. A handshake that lasts a half second longer than necessary. Sitting close enough to a friend that your shoulders almost touch. Letting my granddaughter hold my hand without pulling away after 2 seconds because I thought it was too much. Those moments are not small. They are the whole thing. They are what we are made of. Myth number 5. If I can't perform the way I used to at 45, there's no point. it will only be embarrassing. This one keeps more men alone than almost any other lie on this list. I want to be direct with you because I think you deserve directness. The body at 70 is different from the body at 45. That is true. Medication, circulation, hormones, all of it changes. That is not a moral failure. That is biology. But here is what the men who stay alone never discover. Intimacy at this stage of life is not a performance. It is not a test. It is not something you pass or fail. What women in their late 60s and 70s describe wanting most is not performance. It is patience, presence. The feeling of being genuinely desired by someone who's not in a rush. The pressure you're carrying, the comparison to who you were 30 years ago, that pressure is yours. You built it. You can put it down. Have the conversation with your doctor. Understand what is possible. And then let go of the scoreboard you have been keeping against a younger version of yourself who no longer exists. Here is something nobody tells you. The men who approach this stage of life with honesty, who have that conversation with their doctor, who let go of the performance pressure, who show up as they actually are. Those men are almost universally described by the women in their lives as more attractive. Not despite their age, because of what age did to their patience, to their presence, to the way they actually listen now. That is not a consolation prize, that is the real thing. Myth number 6. Wanting a relationship, wanting closeness at my age is selfish. I'd just be a burden. This is the quietest lie, and in my experience, it is the one that lives deepest. I have heard men say some version of this more times than I can count. My health is uncertain. My finances are fixed. My time is limited. Why would I bring someone into that? And underneath all of it, unspoken, I do not deserve to be wanted anymore. Let me ask you something. If your closest friend, a man your age, a good man, someone who had lived a full and honest life, came to you and said he was afraid to let anyone close because he feared being a burden, what would you say to him? You would tell him he was wrong. You would tell him that his company has value, that his stories have value, that sitting across a table from him and sharing a meal means something. You would mean every word. Now say it to yourself. The belief that you're a burden is not humility. It is a slow form of self-erasure, and it does not protect the people around you. It only keeps them at a distance from someone they might have loved. I will tell you what I believe now at 74, having lived on both sides of this. The most generous thing you can do for the people who love you is to let them love you. Not the performance of you, not the managed, contained, and never needs anything version of you. The actual you. The one who sometimes sits too long in silence. The one who still gets lonely. The one who still quietly wants. That man is worth knowing. Let someone know him. Closing. So there they are. 6 lies. 6 beliefs that were handed to us by silence and shame and a culture that decided men like us were finished. We are not finished. I am not standing here telling you to go find a relationship. I'm not telling you that closeness is the answer to everything. I have talked before about the deep value of solitude, of peace, of a life that belongs entirely to you. But I'm telling you this, whatever you want, whether it is companionship or simply to stop feeling invisible, or just to be touched by another human being without shame. You're allowed to want it. at 70, at 75, at 80, you're still a man. You still have a self that's worth knowing. And the desire to connect, and in whatever form that takes, is not something you need to hide in the garage and sand down until it disappears. It is proof that you are still here, still alive, still worth something to this world. If any part of this reached you today, if you recognized yourself in one of these 6 myths, I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me which one hit the hardest. Tell me how long you have been carrying it. And if you know a man who needs to hear this, friend, a brother, someone sitting alone in a house that got too quiet, share this with him. Not with a message attached, just send it. He will understand why. Subscribe if you want more of this. No pretending, no comfort, just the truth that nobody else is saying. I will see you in the next one.